Lily was a bright spark in her family's life, a 6-year-old girl whose laughter was like sunshine cutting through the clouds on a gloomy day. She loved everything about being a kid, chasing butterflies in the garden, twirling in her favorite pink dress and sharing secrets with her best friend, Max, her golden retriever. From the moment she had come home as a puppy, Max had been by her side, their bond unbreakable. But as autumn rolled in one year, something changed. At first it was subtle. Lily was more tired than usual. Her boundless energy seemed to drain, away like water through a sieve. She began sleeping longer, waking up sluggish, her cheeks losing their usual rosy glow. Sarah, her mother, tried not to worry, blaming it on school and the busy life of a growing child. Then the bruises appeared, mysterious purple patches on Lily's arms and legs, which she insisted came from falling. But Sarah's motherly instincts knew better. She took Lily to the family doctor, hoping for a simple explanation. The waiting room was unusually quiet that day, but inside, a storm was brewing. Tests were run, blood work, X-rays. The sterile smell of the hospital corridors made Sarah's stomach churn. Hours later, they were called into a small, cold office where the doctor sat behind a desk with a grave expression. Sarah's heart pounded so loudly she was sure the doctor could hear it. "Lily has leukemia," he said softly, avoiding eye contact. "It's a rare and aggressive form. I'm sorry, but she only has days, maybe a few weeks." The words hit Sarah like a tidal wave. Her hands trembled as she clutched David's arm. David's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened with disbelief and pain. How could their little girl, so full of life, be facing something so cruel? Lily, unaware of the full weight of those words, reached up and took her mother's hand, offering a weak smile. "I'm okay, Mummy." Sarah blinked back tears and forced a smile. "We're going to fight this, sweetheart. Every day, we'll fight." Back home, the house felt empty. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the noise and laughter that once filled it. The family tried to hold on to routines, meals, schoolwork, bedtime stories, but everything was shadowed by the diagnosis. Max seemed to sense the shift immediately. The golden retriever, usually playful and energetic, became quiet and protective. He never left Lily's side, curling up beside her chair or resting his head on her lap. When Lily cried silently at night, Max would whimper softly, nuzzling her hand as if to say, "I'm here." Doctors scheduled Lily for treatment, but the prognosis was bleak. Chemotherapy, blood transfusions, endless needles. Lily endured, it all with the bravery of a warrior. Still, her strength waned, her once vibrant spirit dimmed, and even the doctors began to prepare the family for the worst. One evening, Sarah sat by Lily's bedside, watching her daughter's chest rise and, full with shallow breaths, the fear in her heart was overwhelming. "Please don't leave me," she whispered, her voice cracking. Lily's fingers twitched weakly. Max licked her hand gently, offering comfort in the only way he knew how. As the days passed, Lily's condition worsened. She stopped eating, her smiles faded, and the machines that monitored her heart beeped relentlessly. The doctors' faces grew more somber, their conversations hushed and cautious. Sarah and David clung to each other, exhausted and broken. Their home, once a place of joy and laughter, had become a hospital room filled with the scent of antiseptic and the weight of impending loss. But even in the darkest moments, Max remained a constant presence, a silent guardian, a reminder of the love that still lived in that room. Little did the family know, Max's unwavering loyalty was about to change everything. What happened next would not only astonish the doctors, but would also show the world a powerful truth, that sometimes hope comes on 4 paws. Max wasn't just any dog. To Lily, he was her best friend, protector, and constant playmate. The golden retriever had been part of the family since Lily was a baby. From her first steps to her first words, Max had been there, always by her side with a wagging tail and gentle eyes. Over the years, their bond had grown into something unbreakable, the kind of friendship that needs no words to be understood. But now, as Lily's health deteriorated, their connection became even more vital. When Lily was first diagnosed, Max seemed to understand before anyone else did. On the morning Sarah broke the news to Lily, the little girl's eyes grew wide with confusion and fear. Max, sensing the shift in the air, placed his large, warm head gently on her lap, as if offering silent reassurance. In the days that followed, Max refused to leave her side. He lay patiently at the foot of her bed, his golden fur a comforting presence against the stark white sheets. When Lily had energy, he eagerly responded to her soft calls. When she was too weak to move, he rested his head on her chest, his breathing steady and calm. The hospital visits were the hardest part. At first, Max wasn't allowed inside the sterile wards. Sarah could see the longing in both Lily's and Max's eyes during those long separations. The little girl would reach for the empty space beside her bed, whispering, "Max, come here." And Max, waiting anxiously in the waiting room, would pace and whimper until she returned. Without Max, Lily grew quieter and more withdrawn. Her vibrant spirit, once so full of life, began to fade. Nurses noticed how her mood lifted only when Sarah or David showed her photos of Max, or when she was allowed a brief visit outside with him in the hospital garden. One day, Sarah pleaded with the hospital staff. "Please, Max has to be with her. She's not the same without him." The doctors hesitated. Hospital policies were strict, especially with immunocompromised patients. But seeing Lily's fragile state, they finally agreed to an exception. For a short supervised visit. When Max entered the hospital room for the first time, something remarkable happened. Lily's eyes, dimmed by days of sickness, flickered open. She reached out a trembling hand, and Max gently nudged it with his nose. Slowly, a faint smile spread across her face, the first genuine smile in weeks. The nurses and doctors who had witnessed so much despair couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. Max seemed to know exactly what to do. He crawled up onto the bed carefully, avoiding the tubes and wires, and settled beside Lily. His warmth radiated through her frail body. The beeping machines suddenly seemed less ominous. From that day on, Max's visits became a vital part of Lily's treatment. The hospital staff nicknamed him the therapy dog, though no one fully understood the depth of his healing power. At home, Max's behavior changed too. He seemed to sense when Lily was in pain or scared. He would rest his head on her knee during painful treatments or whimper softly when she cried in the night. He never demanded attention or food. His whole world had become Lily. Sarah and David watched this with a mixture of awe and heartbreak. How could a dog, simply by being there, bring such comfort? They began to believe that Max was doing more than just comforting their daughter. He was fighting alongside her. One chilly evening, after a particularly tough day of chemotherapy, Lily sat quietly in her wheelchair, her eyes distant. Max climbed up next to her, resting his head on her shoulder. Suddenly, Lily reached out and stroked Max's soft fur with a small, weak hand. "I love you, Max," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Max wagged his tail gently, as if to say, "I'm not going anywhere." That night, Sarah sat by Lily's bedside, watching Max lie at her feet, like a silent sentinel. Despite the fear that clung to every breath, there was a fragile thread of hope, the hope that love, loyalty, and friendship might be enough to carry them through the darkest days ahead. And in the hospital halls, where science often ruled, something quietly miraculous was beginning to unfold, the healing power of a dog's love. The hospital became Lily's new world, a place filled with white walls, blinking machines, and the low murmur of hurried footsteps. Days blended into nights, each moment marked by the sterile beep of monitors and the rustle of nurses' scrubs. For Lily's family, it was a place of both hope and heartbreak, a battleground where every small victory was fiercely celebrated and every setback felt like a crushing blow. Lily's room was a sanctuary amidst the chaos. It was filled with the soft glow of fairy lights, photos of happier days, and piles of her favorite storybooks. And there, always, was Max, the golden retriever whose gentle presence seemed to soften the harshness of the hospital. At first, hospital policy strictly forbade animals in the wards, but after seeing Lily's condition worsen in Max's absence, the doctors made a rare exception. Max was allowed in, but only under strict supervision. Staff brought in disinfectant sprays and protective covers, and Max became a special patient in his own right. Those visits became the highlight of Lily's day. When Max was near, something in her shifted. She would reach out to stroke his fur, her fingers tracing the familiar waves of gold, as if finding strength through touch. The dog's steady breathing and warm body were anchors in a world that often felt unstable and frightening. But as the days passed, Lily's condition grew more fragile. Chemotherapy ravaged her body, stealing her energy and dulling her once bright eyes. Her skin grew pale and thin, and she often drifted into long, restless naps. The family watched helplessly, fearing the inevitable. Sarah and David found themselves caught between hope and despair. Some days they would catch Lily's faint smile as she looked at Max, and their hearts soared. Other days they would find her lying still, eyes closed, and they had to brace themselves against the crushing weight of silence. One afternoon, Lily had a fever spike. Nurses rushed in and out, adjusting IV drips and calling doctors. Her breathing became shallow, and her tiny hand went limp in her mother's grasp. Sarah's heart broke as she whispered prayers, tears streaming down her face. Max, sensing the urgency, grew restless. He paced quietly by the bed, his eyes never leaving Lily's face. Then, as if knowing his presence was needed most, he settled beside her once more, laying his head gently on her chest. The room seemed to hold its breath. Slowly, Lily's breathing steadied. The monitors beeped more steadily. Nurses exchanged hopeful glances. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Yet, despite these fleeting moments of hope, the doctors' faces grew more serious. During rounds, they spoke in hushed tones about end-stage and palliative care. The words were heavy, and Sarah and David knew the reality they faced. One evening, after a long day of treatments, the doctor sat down beside Sarah. "I want to prepare you," he said gently. "Lily may only have days left. We can keep her comfortable, but the cancer is aggressive. There's no cure." Sarah nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She looked over at her daughter, who lay peacefully with Max beside her, and felt a deep ache in her chest. David squeezed her hand. "We'll get through this together." In those quiet, heavy moments, the family began to say the silent goodbyes. They held Lily close, cherishing every breath, every flutter of an eyelash. Friends and relatives came to visit, sharing stories and prayers. Yet beneath the smiles and words of comfort, the fear lingered, the fear of losing their little girl. Through it all, Max never wavered. He became more than a pet, a guardian angel in fur. When Lily cried out in pain, Max was there to nuzzle her cheek. When she slept, he kept watch, his ears twitching at every sound. Nurses often said he was the bravest patient in the ward. One night, Sarah woke to find Max lying beside the hospital bed, his eyes shining in the dim light. He looked up at her and then at Lily, as if silently promising, "I'm here, I won't leave you." And in that moment, Sarah believed, maybe just maybe, that love could hold even the most fragile life together. But as the hours passed and Lily's breaths grew shallower, the family prepared for the moment no parent ever wants to face. The moment when they would have to say goodbye. Yet sometimes, even when the odds are stacked against you, miracles find a way to slip through the cracks. The sterile white hospital room was silent, except for the faint beeping of machines that tracked Lily's fragile heartbeat. Sarah and David sat close, hands entwined, their eyes fixed on their daughter's still form. The doctors had warned them. Each day might be the last. Lily's world had shrunk to this room, this bed, and the steady rhythm of machines. She had stopped speaking days ago. Her bright eyes that once sparkled with curiosity now barely opened. Her tiny body lay limp, drained by the harsh treatments and the relentless disease. It seemed that all hope was fading, but then came the day that changed everything. Sarah had made one last desperate plea to the hospital staff. "Please, Max needs to be with her. I believe he can help her, even if just a little." The doctors hesitated. Hospital rules were strict. Infections, allergies, safety concerns. Yet seeing Lily's desperate need and knowing how Max had been a source of comfort, they agreed to a controlled visit. When Max entered the room, his golden coat shining, Even under the harsh fluorescent lights, something shifted immediately. He padded slowly toward the bed, his eyes soft but intense, his nose twitching as he caught Lily's scent. Sarah held her breath, watching the scene unfold like a prayer. Max climbed gently onto the bed beside Lily, careful not to disturb the wires or tubes. He nudged her hand with his nose, then rested his head on her chest. Lily's eyes fluttered. Open a flicker, a sign. Slowly she turned her head toward Max, her pale fingers curling around his fur. The faintest smile appeared on her lips, a fragile bloom of life after days of darkness. The monitors beeped in irregular patterns, but the medical team noticed something unusual. Lily's heartbeat, once weak and erratic, grew steadier, more rhythmic. Her breathing eased. Nurses and doctors gathered quietly at the door, watching with disbelief. A moment like this was almost unheard of, a flicker of life where machines had predicted none. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Max, you did it," she whispered, her voice cracking. For the first time in weeks, Lily looked like herself, a child awakening from a deep, dark sleep. In the days that followed, Max was granted regular visits to the hospital. He became Lily's guardian, a living, breathing source of comfort and hope. He would rest his head on her lap, nuzzle her cheek, and never leave her side. More than once, hospital staff saw Max react to changes in Lily's condition before the machines. Barking softly when her oxygen dipped, whimpering when she was restless. It was as if Max could feel what no human could detect. Doctors called it unexplained. Nurses whispered about miracles. But for Sarah and David, it was simply the power of love, the bond between a little girl and her dog. With Max by her side, Lily's strength slowly returned. She began opening her eyes more often, responding to voices, and even reaching out to touch Max's fur. The once silent hospital room now echoed with small sounds, the patter of paws, the soft murmur of hope. Sarah often caught herself watching them, Lily and Max, together, a picture of innocence and loyalty that defied the grim prognosis. Maybe, she thought, this is the miracle we prayed for. As the days passed, doctors remained cautiously optimistic, amazed at Lily's unexpected improvement. It was not a cure, not yet, but it was hope. And sometimes hope is the strongest medicine of all. That day, with Max by her side, Lily had taken her first step back from the edge. The family held on to that moment tightly, knowing that every second counted. In the quiet hospital room, where fear had once ruled, love had found a way to break through. With Max by Lily's side, the hospital room no longer felt like a place of despair, but a sanctuary of fragile hope. Each day brought small miracles, the faintest smile, a twitch of a finger, a soft murmur of a voice. Sarah and David clung to these moments like lifelines, their hearts slowly mending from the raw ache of impending loss. Doctors marveled at Lily's progress. The aggressive leukemia, which had once ravaged her body with merciless speed, seemed to slow, almost as if it was held at bay by something beyond science. Though cautious, the medical team allowed themselves to hope that love and companionship could indeed influence healing. Max became more than a therapy dog. He became a symbol of resilience. Nurses found him curled beside Lily during long chemotherapy sessions, offering silent support that no words could match. When Lily winced from pain, Max's eyes would soften, and he'd gently nuzzle her hand as if saying, "I'm here, you're not alone." At home, Max was equally vigilant. Sarah noticed that the moment Lily's condition worsened, a slight cough, a pale cheek, Max would stay unusually close, his body tense, ears alert. It was as if he sensed changes before anyone else. One evening, after a difficult day at the hospital, Sarah brought Lily home for a short visit, hoping the familiar surroundings would lift her spirits. Max led the way, his tail wagging gently, as if proud to be the guardian of his little girl's fragile world. Lily's room was just as she remembered. Stuffed animals lined up on the bed, drawings taped to the walls, and sunlight streaming through the window. As Lily settled under her favorite blanket, Max hopped onto the bed beside her, resting his head on her shoulder. "I love you, Max," Lily whispered weakly. Max responded with a soft lick on her cheek, his golden eyes full of warmth. For a moment, the house was filled with a quiet peace, the kind that only true love can bring. Sarah and David sat nearby, their eyes misty but hopeful. But this fragile peace was soon interrupted. During the night, Lily's breathing became labored. Sarah woke to find Max alert and restless, pacing the room, whining softly. Max's behavior was unusual, protective, urgent. Sarah quickly called the hospital and an ambulance was dispatched. At the hospital, doctors worked quickly. Thanks to Max's instincts and timely response, they were able to stabilize Lily before her condition worsened. "Max saved her," Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face as she hugged the loyal dog. The medical staff were stunned. A dog's intuition had brought Lily back from the brink once more. It was a moment that would be remembered by everyone involved, proof that sometimes healing comes in unexpected forms. As days turned into weeks, Lily's health continued to improve, slowly but steadily. She began to regain some strength, her laughter returning in quiet bursts. She even asked to play outside with Max, a wish that warmed the hearts of everyone around her. The family made sure to cherish every moment, each one a precious gift. Friends and neighbors sent messages of support and prayers, inspired by the story of Lily and Max's incredible bond. Doctors were cautious but hopeful, noting that while the cancer was still present, Lily's body was fighting back with renewed vigor. It was as if Max's presence had given her the strength to keep going. Sarah often reflected on how much Max had done, not just for Lily, but for the entire family. He had been a source of comfort in the darkest nights, a silent witness to tears and fears, and now a hero. In a world full of uncertainty, Max was a constant, a golden light shining through the storm. But even as hope blossomed, the family knew the battle wasn't over. They braced themselves for whatever lay ahead, determined to hold on to the miracle unfolding before their eyes. Because sometimes love, pure and unwavering, can change everything. The days passed with a fragile rhythm, moments of hope carefully balanced against the looming shadow of uncertainty. Lily's health was improving, but the doctors remained cautious. Every improvement was celebrated, every setback met with quiet determination. Yet through it all, one thing remained constant: Max. Max had become more than just a dog. He was the heart of the family's fight, the invisible thread holding them together. Nurses marveled at his intuitive care, how he seemed to understand every nuance of Lily's condition, responding instantly to her slightest discomfort or distress. One particular afternoon sealed Max's reputation as their unseen hero. Lily was resting quietly in her hospital bed, her eyes half closed but peaceful. The room was bathed in golden light filtering through the window. Sarah sat by her side, brushing Lily's hair softly, while David filled out paperwork nearby. Max lay at Lily's feet, his head resting on his paws, eyes alert. Suddenly, Max's ears twitched, his head lifted, and he let out a low, urgent whine. Sarah looked up, startled. "Max? What is it?" she whispered, stroking his head. But Max wasn't satisfied. He stood abruptly and paced near Lily's bed, nudging her arm with his nose. His body was tense, his eyes fixed on the IV monitor. Something was wrong. Before Sarah could react, the monitor began to beep loudly, a harsh, shrill warning. Lily's oxygen levels had dropped dangerously low, and her heartbeat was irregular. The nurses rushed in immediately, their faces tense but focused. Max stayed close, his presence calm yet alert, as if standing guard. Thanks to Max's early warning, the medical team acted quickly. Oxygen was administered, and Lily's vitals stabilized within minutes. Sarah's heart pounded as she clutched Max's collar. "Thank you, Max," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You saved her." Doctors praised the dog's uncanny ability to detect changes in Lily's condition before any machines or staff. "It's remarkable," one nurse admitted. "He's like an early warning system." Max's quiet heroism became the talk of the hospital ward. Visitors would stop by to see the golden retriever whose love had helped save a little girl's life more than once. But for Sarah and David, Max was simply family, a guardian angel who refused to leave their side. Meanwhile, Lily's strength continued to grow in small but meaningful ways. She began sitting up with Max by her side, her laughter echoing faintly through the halls once more. The little girl who had once faced the edge of life was now fighting her way back. One afternoon, Sarah captured a tender moment that would stay with her forever. Lily was lying in bed, her frail hand resting on Max's fur, her eyes closed in peaceful sleep. Max, ever vigilant, rested his head gently on her shoulder, protecting her like a fierce yet gentle knight. In that moment, Sarah realized the true miracle of Max wasn't just his loyalty or presence, it was his unwavering love. A love so pure it gave Lily the courage to keep fighting, even when the odds seemed impossible. As the family moved forward, each day was filled with gratitude and quiet determination. They knew the road ahead was still uncertain, but with Max by their side they felt stronger than ever. In the midst of hospital lights and whispered prayers, a golden retriever's heart was beating strong, a beacon of hope in the darkest nights. And as Lily's eyes slowly opened to a brighter tomorrow, the family held on to one truth. Sometimes the greatest healers don't wear white coats. They have 4 paws, a wagging tail, and a heart full of love. The hospital buzzed softly with the rhythm of routines, doctors making their rounds, nurses tending patients, machines humming quietly. But in Lily's room, time seemed to move differently, slower, as if the world had paused to witness a miracle unfold. Lily's health had made incredible strides. She was no longer the fragile, pale child who had barely held on to life. Her cheeks had a hint of color, and she smiled more often, though her body still bore the scars of the fight she had endured. Max never left her side. Wherever Lily went, whether a hospital bed, a wheelchair, or finally short walks in the garden, Max followed. His presence was a comfort not just to Lily, but to her parents and everyone around them. One evening, as the golden light of sunset spilled through the window, Sarah sat beside Lily's bed holding her daughter's hand. Max rested his head on Lily's lap, eyes heavy but attentive. Lily looked up at her mother, her voice a soft whisper. "Mom, promise me something." Sarah's heart tightened. "Anything, sweetheart. Promise me Max will always be with me, no matter what happens. He's my best friend." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she squeezed Lily's hand. "I promise, Lily, always." David, standing nearby, nodded solemnly. "He's family. Nothing will change that." In that moment, the family made a vow, a promise sealed with love and hope, that Max would never leave Lily's side, no matter what the future held. The bond between the girl and her dog was deeper than anyone had imagined. Max seemed to understand the promise too. His gentle eyes met Lily's, and he gave a soft, reassuring bark as if to say, "I'm here." Days turned into weeks, and Lily's strength continued to improve. She even started attending a special program at the hospital designed for children fighting cancer, therapy sessions, art classes, and gentle exercise. Max was always there, part of every moment. He would sit quietly during art therapy, his head tilted as if he were admiring Lily's drawings. When she struggled to walk, Max would stay by her side, offering silent encouragement. One day, during a therapy session, Lily surprised everyone by standing up without assistance. Her legs wobbled, but with Max's steady presence, she took a few unsteady steps. The room erupted in cheers, but for Sarah and David, it was more than just a milestone. It was a testament to the healing power of love and loyalty. But life still held uncertainties. The doctors reminded them that while Lily was improving, the cancer was not fully gone. It could return. The family faced each day with a blend of hope and realism, never taking a moment for granted. Yet, through the uncertainty, the promise remained unbroken. One chilly morning, a surprise awaited Lily. The hospital arranged a special outing to a nearby park, a rare chance for fresh air and sunlight. Sarah and David wheeled Lily outside, with Max leading the way, tail wagging, eyes bright. Lily smiled broadly as she reached out to pet Max's head. The soft breeze ruffled her hair, and for the first time in months she laughed freely. "It's perfect," she said softly. Sarah wrapped an arm around her daughter, whispering, "We're going to keep fighting together." Max sat beside them, a faithful guardian basking in the warmth of a new day. That promise, made in a hospital room sealed with tears and hope, had changed everything. It gave Lily strength when she needed it most, reminding her she was never alone. As the sun set on that day, the family felt something profound, a hope not just for survival, but for a future filled with love, laughter, and the unbreakable bond between a girl and her dog. The days that followed were filled with quiet victories and tender moments. Lily's journey, once so uncertain and filled with shadows, had blossomed into a story of hope, one that touched the hearts of everyone around her. Max remained by her side through it all, his golden fur a constant comfort in a world that had once seemed so frightening. The dog who had entered the hospital room on a desperate plea had become a lifeline, a symbol of resilience and unconditional love. One chilly morning, the family gathered in the hospital garden. The air was crisp, but sunlight warmed their faces. Lily, now stronger and more vibrant than anyone had dared hope, sat in her wheelchair with Max lying loyally at her feet. Sarah and David exchanged a look, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and love. The journey had been long and difficult, but here they were together, stronger than ever. Doctors approached with smiles, sharing the news everyone had prayed for. Lily's latest tests showed no sign of cancer. It wasn't just a remission, it was a victory. Tears spilled freely as the family embraced, their joy echoing beyond the walls of the hospital. Max barked softly, as if celebrating too, wagging his tail with excitement. But the true victory was not just the medical miracle. It was the bond that had carried Lily through the darkest days. Months later, Lily was able to return home permanently. Her room was filled with sunlight, toys, and the familiar comfort of Max's presence. The dog who had been her guardian, her healer, and her friend never left her side. Together, they explored the world anew, chasing butterflies in the garden, playing fetch in the park, and sharing quiet moments under the stars. Each day was a gift, each laugh a triumph. Sarah often reflected on the incredible journey. "Max didn't just save Lily's life," she said to friends and family. "He saved our hope. He showed us the power of love, pure, simple, and unwavering." The story of Lily and Max spread beyond their small town, inspiring others with its message of courage, loyalty, and healing. People who heard the tale found strength in their own battles, reminded that miracles can come in the most unexpected forms. Lily grew stronger with every passing day, her spirit unbreakable. Though scars remained, they were marks of survival, badges of a fight won with the help of a four-legged hero. On the first anniversary of Lily's remission, the family gathered to celebrate not just her health, but the extraordinary bond that had made it possible. They planted a tree in the garden, a symbol of life, growth, and resilience. Max sat nearby, his tail wagging gently, eyes filled with the quiet pride of a protector fulfilled. Lily touched the tree's young leaves and smiled. "Thank you, Max," she whispered. Max looked up at her, his eyes shining with love. In the years that followed, the family never forgot the lessons they learned, that love has the power to heal, that hope can shine brightest in the darkest moments, and that sometimes a dog's loyalty is the greatest medicine of all. Lily's story became a legacy, a reminder that even when the future looks uncertain, love and friendship can light the way. And through it all, Max remained by her side, a steadfast guardian, and the heart of their miracle. Because sometimes the greatest heroes come on four paws, and they teach us that the strongest bonds are those of love.